What's the number one asked question in my DMs? Who is your supplier for hair extensions? So let me start by saying that this has been a really long journey to get to this point, to have a really amazing hair supplier.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Janish, owner of Adored Salon and Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions. I'm obsessed with curly hair. I cut it, style it, and extend it, and this podcast is all about my curly girl obsessions that stretch far beyond just curly hair.
Hey there, it's me, Jennifer, from the Curly Girls Obsessions. I'm so happy that you're here today. I hope you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts. If you're not already a subscriber or a follower, please click the button to do so. That helps us grow and also gives you notifications when a new episode drops. So even better, you're always up to date with the topics that I'm here to talk about. And usually I'm talking about curly hair or the hair industry, hairstylists that operate at the top 2% of the industry, my education, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on, right? So last week I talked a little bit about comments that have dropped into my DMs as of late. Actually, I want to say that's probably been 2 or 3 podcasts. This one is also one that gets dropped into my DMs a lot, and it always makes me scratch my head. So let me go there, and let me start by saying, if you think that this is directed at you, because you've asked me this, multiple people have asked me this, and I'm not giving it up. So what's the number one asked question in my DMs? Who is your supplier for hair extensions? So let me start by saying that this has been a really long journey to get to this point, to have a really amazing hair supplier. I have done the work to create an online e-commerce business to sell these extensions to other hair extension artists like you who are probably listening. And if you know anything about starting a business, if you own a salon, you know that it comes with trials and tribulations, learning lessons along the way, road bumps, brick walls, like all the things. Don't think that starting an online e-commerce business is any different. It's just a lot more riskier. That being said, giving up the name of my supplier would be stupid of me, right? Because why would I do that? I've worked hard and I've put in all this work to get there. So let me give you like a little example of, how that would go. So if you went to MAC Makeup, let's just say for instance, like I love this lip gloss. It's called Lip Glass, to be honest. And if I decided that I wanted to start a company creating this exact lip gloss, I could not go to MAC and ask them who their supplier was. Or I could go to MAC and ask them who their supplier was, but they would never say, oh, this is who we use. These are all the ingredients, because they spent thousands and thousands of dollars to manufacture the most perfect lip gloss in the world. It's the same with the hair extensions. So, like, if this is the road you want to go down as a hairstylist, salon owner, hair extension artist, I'm gonna recommend that you get really comfortable with being uncomfortable, because this is a hard and risky business. First and foremost, you are wiring money across the ocean. Like you have no idea what you're going to get back. You hope and pray that you know what you're going to get back, but this is also the reason why you guys are DMing me, is because you've dealt with crappy hair from other hairlines and you're trying to find a solution. I get that. I created the solution when I created Adored Hair Extensions in my mind's eye. You know, we have 3 different textures: subtle body, beach wave, naturally curly. The subtle body is the least amount of curl. It's perfect. Beach wave is in between, and naturally curly is very curly. Our hair does not go above and beyond that. We don't have like ringlet hair. Like, I would say we don't have like Z pattern, afro textures, and anything that is tighter than our curly, because that hair would have to be machine tied. Again, I know this from a lot of fuck ups, a lot of customer service, of dealing with the level of texture that we have currently and what most stylists are willing to learn and understand in order to embrace it and become successful. So, you know, thinking about all of that, to me, when I started my brand, it was very important for me that the hair came from India. I knew that the best hair came from India because India is the world's largest hair supplier, to say. India is home to the hundreds of thousands, probably, of Hindu temples in which they practice a religious sacrifice called tansaring. They pilgrimage to the temples, they shave their heads, they offer it up to the gods for better health, wealth, you know, coming of age, like all these different things that you would want to offer up a sacrifice to gods. So at the temple, they are shaving the heads. The temples employ 10 to 12,000 barbers a day in order to do this job. And they're so skilled at doing this that they know what comes out of the scalp, what is the ends. Like, it's packaged as such that when my supplier goes there, they are able to purchase the multiple textures, and they do it by weight. So with that being said, hold on, Woody. Sorry, my dog was being loud. But with that being said, you are getting the raw hair in its raw state. When the hair comes, so like majority of hair extensions come out of China, right? They're a lot of the times the end like manufacturer, but they purchase their hair from all over the world, right? India being one of the biggest purchasing spots because of all the hair. And then China also has their own hair in there too. So you're getting a lot of different hair in China. And for that fact, China goes through so many different chemical processes with the hair. Because they're not the first purchaser, they have to strip the cuticle. That's one chemical service. It's an acid bath. Then they lighten the hair. Then they color the hair. Then they smooth out the hair to one texture, and then they perm the hair, and then they coat it with silicone to make it look like it still has its cuticle intact, because the cuticle is what maintains the shine and the integrity of the hair, right? In India, we're getting the texture right from the start. So all that my hair has to go through is the lightening process and the coloring process, and then they tie it on the string, right? I don't even deal with genius wefts or, you know, what are all the, I don't like those rubbery top wefts, because yet again, it's another chemical that is definitely not regulated. And so when you hear all that, right, and that was just the start. That was just the basic knowledge that I had going into this, and the trust level that I had to have when trusting a supplier. And trust me, I'm not with my original supplier, because there was a lot of broken promises and a lot of money lost. So when somebody asks me who my supplier is, the only thing I can think of in my head is like, maybe instead of asking me that, ask me for the link to my site so that you could purchase the hair that I've worked so hard to bring to a perfect product to deliver to you. Because you don't have to worry about all that as the end user. Like, you don't have to think about, like, in your brain, conceptually think of how this business model even started. And that's the other thing. If we could talk about all these, it's like an MLM company basically within the hair extension industry, where they're telling you to create your own line. So you're creating your own line off of their line, and you're getting their product shipped to you, but they're removing themselves from all fault because now it's under your name, right? And it requires a large investment to do so. I know you've got to stick with certain, percentage of orders that you're going to have, or your buy-in is like you're buying into the country club of hair extensions, and then they're giving you this product. So to me that doesn't fit either is because as the salon owner, you can only afford to purchase so much. So then you're skimping when it comes to texture or when it comes to color, because you've gotten your package that's 6 different blondes, 4 different midtones, 3 different darks, or however it works. I don't even know how it works, right? But like, the only way to really have like a business model out of that investment is to create an e-commerce site where you're selling it to other people, and they've removed you from that because they're selling you that package, and they're selling that package to Becky down the street at salon whatever, so she's never buying hair from you, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is, like, when you DM me and you say that you've got crappy hair and you're looking for a reputable source, my answer to you is always going to be, well, adoredhairextensions.com, because I've done all the work to bring it to that point where it is just a click and add to cart website. And by the way, too, we were the first to sell weft-by-weft, because as the salon owner, I also knew from purchasing hair extensions from other companies in which I would have to purchase a full pack or overpriced half pack to get to it, that it was more beneficial to the stylist and the salon owner if they could purchase by weft. They would then have more freedom within their install to use more colors and make it look more natural, instead of doing a blonde with a full pack of number 60 and low lighting it and toning it and doing all this stuff to try and make it look as if the blondes are different, when in all actuality, they're all going to fade to that color number 60. They're not going to fade to, these variations that you need in order to make it look right. So we were the first that came out with purchase by weft. And then we were also the first to say texture matching is crucial, right? So, and you guys know that I'm going to die on that cliff of the fact that texture matching is crucial, and still to this day I see people putting in straight hair extensions on curly hair all the time, and the minute one drop of humidity is out there, the curly hair swells, the straight extensions fall flat. Even permed extensions fall flat because their biological makeup is of straight hair, so therefore the hair is straight. It's just compromised because there's more chemical processes on it, making it curly. My dogs are fighting on the other side of my island. Woody! Hey! Stop. Sorry. Can we just sit down and relax? This is not the first time on a podcast. These dogs have gone crazy. So, yeah, you really and truly have no idea the benefits that outweigh starting the brand from the beginning. And honestly, I've been through it so much with the brand that even in a recent post, I was recently featured in Salon Evo for my curly extensions and the education, and we were actually their Reader's Choice pick of 2026 with our blonde curly wefts, because they're like the best that you're gonna find when it comes to blonde curly hair in the hair extension world. When I wrote the post, I said something to the effect of like, would you do it again, or would I don't remember exactly what the word was, but like my end to that sentence was the word mostly. And the reason it was mostly is because the stress that is involved when you start this kind of business, as you know, you have all these hopes and dreams that it's going to be X, Y, or Z, or, you know, you're going to have your good years, you're going to have your bad years, you're going to have craziness in the economy that's going to deplete sales, you're going to have other things come available that make yours look like old school, which I could call that one out. Like, our hair is still hand tied. And I told you earlier, it's because I don't want those extra chemicals on the wefts. And FYI, like, the only reason that Genius wefts came out was because China figured out that if they could come up with a solution to hand tying them, they could produce 100 times more of the hair in the same amount of time. And what did that mean? It meant putting a chemical across the top to seal it so that it wouldn't shed, but that they didn't have to hand tie it. Do you know what this chemical is? Do you know like what the makeup of it is? And if you're trusting on China to tell you the truth, that's a big trust, because they're not always truthful. But yeah, so I went through a lot to figure out what was the best way to deliver the product to the market. And like I said in the beginning, there was a lot of losses. This company withstood COVID in India and multiple lockdowns in India, and just dealing with the things that I dealt with over that time, getting bad hair, not getting all of my order, getting, poorly made hair. Like, there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of hair sitting in my salon that is now practice hair for the class, because it just wasn't up to par with what I wanted to sell to clients. And you go through this stuff. Talk about imposter syndrome on social media. How about imposter syndrome within a business? Like, there is a lot that will go down, and it takes a while for that problem to brew and come to the surface. And then you've got to deal with it. And how are you dealing with it publicly? Like, I've seen a lot of lines, or I shouldn't even say a lot of lines, a couple of lines say that they've totally restructured and gone to other manufacturers. And while like I wasn't happy that happened to them, in my own heart, I was like, thank God I'm not alone. Like, this shit happens, and the whole business feels like it's up for grabs. And you've got to pivot, restructure, rework things, and pray to the hair gods that it's all going to work out in your favor, because there's been a lot that's not been in your favor on the front end of that. So, here is my advice to anyone who thinks that they want to have a hairline that's not a corporate company that, just is like, I just want better hair. My advice first is search out all the brands that are available, because all the creators and founders of those companies have taken a lot of lumps for you to get a good product. Second of all, determine what you're willing to give up in order to do this. If you go through all the product lines and you still decide that you want to have your own hairline, determine what you're willing to give up. Is it your money? Is it your time? Is it your self-confidence? Because that's going to take a beating. You're going to go through it. You're going to be, it's a different business with a lot of different ethics than what you are used to here in the United States. You've got to have a really thick skin, and you've got to be in it for the long haul, because it costs a lot of money to start. I want to tell you that, like, when I started my e-commerce website, the first proposal on it, I think was like $3,200. To date, I've probably spent $10,000 or more on that e-commerce website. Just saying, like, it takes a lot to keep it going, right? And not to mention the people on the back end that are taking in the orders, fulfilling the orders, shipping out the orders, the time that it takes to communicate back and forth with the supplier, and, color matching. Like, I mean, it's every time you place an order, even though you are, fully committed to someone, things come back differently. That's just the way it is. It's just how you work in the salon. Like, some days you're 100% on, you're going to give the best haircut you've ever given. Some days you're slightly off, and some things are very hard to grasp. Like, some days just like the shit just hits the fan. And it's the same with running this business. Like, some days are awesome, some months are awesome, and some years just are kind of really rough. And so if it still sounds like something you want, then you need to have the financial backing, be it your own personal savings, or whether you get an SBA loan or just a loan and a line of credit, and you start. You have to know that there's market trends, and like I said, you're always dealing with the newcomers that come on with something new and exciting. And hairdressers, I love you all, but you're also the first to go after the shiny new objects. Regardless if they're better or not, they always want to try what's new and what's out there. And even like this whole K-tip thing, like, that's old, made new again. And old, it fell out of practice because it took so long to actually just get to the point of installing with the pre-blending and all the thing. And now stylists are out there making their own K-tips, which I personally think is crazy. Your time is worth way more than that. And then the time of the install, right? So, but they really jumped off the ship really quite quickly from hand-tied with less attachments to K-tip, because it seemed like the bright and shiny new object, right? Probably a lot of them got there and they're like, this is crazy, because it's a lot of work. The other day on social media too, I saw someone like saying she was maintaining her K-tips, and meanwhile she's pulling them apart in the back of their head. And I'm cringing the entire time, because what she's doing is the hair that has shedded from her scalp is laying down. So it's intertwining and tangling with the other strands. So meanwhile, when you're pulling them apart, you're creating friction and dead ends and breakage, which then leads to a new tangle, dead ends, breakage, like all the things, right? So you do have to be very aware that that is how things go. My brand, I feel like, is one of those that has stood the test of time. My feelings behind the methods to install hand-tied is the best as far as hair extensions come. I mean, I've been doing them for like 17 years now, and I've done every type that there is. To know that the longevity, if maintained well, this is the best route to go. And honestly, I feel like my hair is also the best hair to purchase for all the reasons that I stated. Less chemicals, you know, less attachments, an easier install, an easier removal. Like, I mean, hands down, it definitely is the best. But it did take 17 years of knowledge to start this business, and it took a lot of experience and reps to get to where I am today. Hence why if you send me a DM asking me who my supplier is, I'm not going to share it. I'm going to direct you to my website. And as hairstylists and hair extension artists, if you've been in this area for a long time, I know that you believe in charging what you're worth and charging for your time, and understanding that hair extensions is an elevated service. So when you ask who my supplier is, you're strictly doing that so you can undercut me, my time, and my knowledge, which is just like the client that's price shopping on hair extensions. Make sense? Glad we're clear on that. Honestly, I just have to say, you have to give it up for the founders of businesses, because we are all to some level crazy to actually take this on and ride through the storms, because the storms are many, 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 many. So when I tell you that comfort creates self-care and that discomfort creates self-respect, if you want a hairline, you're going to have to go through the discomfort of figuring it out on yourself. Nobody's going to hold your hand and direct you to do all the stuff that they have put themselves through and just give it up to you. You got to do the work. And I would think you'd want to do the work if you really wanted your brand to stand out as your brand. So I hope this gave you some insight. I hope this helped. I'm pretty sure I'll never see another DM about who my supplier is after this podcast. But if you know me and you've listened to these, you will understand that I'm a hard worker and I never give up. Once I have an idea in my sights, it is like tunnel vision to get there and to make it the most perfect that it possibly can be. And I would challenge you to do the same for yourself if that's really what you want to do. So share this with a friend if you found value, or if you know someone who could find value from hearing this. And yeah, hope you have an awesome day. Talk to you later.